Hi everyone, it's Eliana and I have a card to share with you today. It is a rather simple card and this is the card I plan to mass produce for my Christmas cards. I am starting off with the Altenew Galaxy Washi because it is going to make my background go so much faster. So I have these pre-cut panels from Gina layering paper and I am just adding it to an A2 size card front. I do have a piece of metal underneath my cutting mat, so using the magnet kind of helps to hold the washi down. And because I have a piece of purple tape around my magnet, it's easy for me to pick it up. So I'm just cutting off the edges, the corners of the washi, and I'm just folding the edges down so that I get a nice smooth edge. And what I plan to do is to take this panel and cut it right down the middle so I can get 2 cards out of one strip of washi. So by doing this, it will extend my washi. Now I'm going to be using the watercolor Nebula one, and it is wider. So what I did was I cut my A2 card front in half. That way I could get 3 cards out of each one of these. And because it's so large, I'm just going to use my line to rip the edge of my washi. Now I'm going to go ahead and stamp the inside of my cards now. So I am using this Gina Sentimental Holiday stamp set for the inside, and I'm just using the grid transparency to line things up. So I'm just counting the squares on both sides of the sentiment. And I don't ever trust myself because sometimes I see crooked. And so I'm just going to double check that I did get the sentiment straight, and I am pleased with it. So I'm just going to start stamping. It does go super fast, but because I've already folded and scored my cardstock, it kind of sticks up. So I'm just using the magnet to hold everything down. I hardly ever use my magnet inside my MISTI if I'm going to put everything in the corner, but because it's folded, it does help to use the magnet. So I've cut my cardstock down. I took full sheets of the Gina layering paper and I cut them down into 3 different sizes so that I could layer the die cuts from the bottom up. So what I ended up doing was cutting them, I think, 2 inches, 3 inches, and then 3.5 inches. I'm not for sure, but I think that's how I decided to cut it so that it would be a little more efficient. And then I am cutting I'm going to be placing the rest of my dies. I could get 3 of them all in one swoop, but I couldn't get all of them. So now I'm going to do the remainder of the dies. The star, I have taken a piece of doodle bug glitter paper and I used some stick it adhesive and I put it onto a small piece of foam, and so that way it has some dimension. So I'm just going to start layering it. And my plan was to have all of the layers start from the bottom up so it'd be easy to assemble, but for some reason I was off by just a little bit and I couldn't get the background to cover the edge of the washi, so I had to scoot it up just a tiny bit, but it's not an issue. I am putting a little bit of liquid adhesive behind some of the elements. Number 1, because it'll stick to the washi, and number 2, I don't want it to get caught in the envelope. I don't want it to be too thick by adding layers of foam, so I'm just keeping it simple because I'm making so many of these. And like I said, I'm just adding a little bit of liquid adhesive, and I am using Thermoweb iCraft mixed media adhesive. So for my last layer, I'm going to just add it to the very bottom. So my plan when I cut these pieces out was to always put my die cut to the very top edge. That way everything would line up on the bottom. Now for the star, since it's going to be directly onto the washi, there is adhesive on the back of it, but it's not going to stick to the washi. It's going to come off, so I need to put some liquid adhesive and that will help it stay. For the sentiment, I am using the Tailored Expressions Simple Strips Christmas one. And the sentiments that pertain to my card are mainly on the bottom. So I just used a scrap piece of that same coordinating paper, and I am just stamping it onto the bottom. You still have a couple of the registration marks at the bottom to help you line things up. I am using my alabaster embossing ink from Brutus Monroe. And I'm going to go ahead and clean off any stray embossing powder and then just go ahead and heat set it. I do have to say that part of my card inspiration came from the Tailored Expression website. So you can go over to their website and click on any of the dies. And the dies that I used were the A Savior's Born and the Follow the Star. They have lots of examples of how to use these dies. So I took my inspiration from them. I lined up my die and I ran it through my die cutting machine, my Gemini. And now I'm just going to add the sentiment. I'm just going to center it, eyeball it down at the bottom. I'm making over 100 of these, so I'm not going to be too terribly careful. I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to add it with some foam onto the bottom. And here is the other version of the card. Okay, this is the one I just showed you, but the watercolor Nebula has different colors. And so I just tried to use cardstock colors that were coordinating with the sky. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Have a great day.